guys, I would be asking few questions from both Chirag and Rachit, and they would share their experiences and their insights with us. Meanwhile, if you have any questions around the ongoing topics or anything else, please feel free to share those questions in the Q&A panel, and I'll try to take them up as we proceed with our session. Right. So my first question is, what is the impact of a seamless onboarding experience that you would have seen on vital engagement and retention metrics? Chirag, Rachit, any of you, please go ahead.
Payas, as you said, right, seamless onboarding experience. In terms of retention and engagement, like when a user installs the app, there is an intent for the user to come on the app and look for what he was looking at, right, on the app.
Mm-hmm.
So once you like map that expectation with the user and give the same expectation on the first app open, right, and he is able to get value out of it, that definitely poses a very important aspect in terms of retention, because if he has got what he wants, he would come back and again consume it. So yeah, I would definitely say the impact for seamless onboarding is on all aspects: retention, adoption, activation, conversion. So any aspect to it, but once you give the user the value on the first app open, there is a higher chance that he would stick to your app and then in the end convert as well.
Sure. Thanks, Rachit. Chirag?
Yep. So I'll just like with the mass transit context, right? So we initially started off with copying ride hailing as much as we can. But what we realized over a period of time was that every use case that you solve for is a little different. One of the biggest things that we realized is that the onboarding experience, the longer it takes, the lesser the chance they complete it. The lesser the chance they complete it, lesser they'll activate. Activate being just the first time they interact with us from a trip standpoint, right? So we did a couple of things over the last 6 months. We did first we removed, like took a very critical view of our onboarding experience, removed all the unnecessary fields. One very controversial decision was to remove email IDs that we won't need, because email IDs are becoming less and less relevant, and then improving obviously the look and feel of it. The second big decision that we have actually taken recently is to move the experience of finding civil rides in your country before you sign up, right? This is very similar to how maybe flights work, how travel work, where you don't need to necessarily sign up to see the available rides, available travel flights, etc. You can go and search before. So there's again another experiment that we're trying to work with, where we can get users to see what we have available as soon as they install, as soon as they get onto the app, and then chances of them converting and signing up are much higher and more relevant. So these are like a couple of things, and in the end, like short term, as Rachit mentioned, retention is absolutely important. But short term, just looking at activation and ensuring that they do the necessary actions that we want them to do in the first couple of interactions with us. I think that's been our focus generally, and really helped us bump our activations by 10-12 percentage points. So yeah.
Great point. Great, Chirag. So the takeaway is that if we keep the onboarding experience shorter as possible, there's higher chance that user will engage with the app and subsequently lead to higher retention. And I guess Rachit is also on the same point, right? So looks like we have question on the first question. We have our first question. So here is a question from Ankita, which is how to handle the issue of internet connectivity or any server outage when onboarding. So would any of you like to take a dig at it? The impact of internet connectivity or server outage on onboarding.
So I can take a couple of server outage. Internet connectivity would have to be solved differently. Server outage is more internal, and it depends on. It could be dealt with how any server outage works out for new existing users. However you work out with it, that you have on your own product. So but internet connectivity is a much more problem. Especially we face this quite a bit in our offline experiences that we have in the countries that we work with. We work in Egypt, Kenya, and connectivity is generally a big problem. So obviously now from an install standpoint and the app that works out there, limited bandwidth being consumed, limited ability to be able to, if it's 3G, 4G, so it's not about only being on Wi-Fi, keeping the mobile app as low in terms of size and being able to then keep the first few experiences loading time as simple as possible so that people can move faster. So that's something we focused on also in our onboarding experience to ensure that a low weighted app can be sort of pumped up very easily and the loading times of everything is very seamless. So that's one way of doing it. I think but no internet connectivity at all would be difficult to to work in the app space. But limited 3G, 4G, limited access, 1 towers, 2 towers, you can solve for that with with focusing a lot on your app size and your loading times.
Great, that makes a lot of sense, Chirag. I guess I agree that if we keep the first initial steps a bit low on the usage, then it would improve the customer experience. So we have one more question coming, and let's take that up as well before we proceed to the next task. So the question is, what exactly do you mean by shorter onboarding? Does 7 to 14 days of engagement count as shorter onboarding? Rachit, would you like to take that up?
So basically what I would suggest here is that shorter onboarding can be in two different ways, right? One onboarding is when you take the user from like the first app open experience, as I was saying, right? The user opens the app and from the app till the aha moment, right? And the aha moment can be different for different companies or different apps. But here, like if I talk about Threads, so for us, once the user opens the app, we need to land him to his first video, right? Because that's what the value is for him. And all the things, the different screens which come in for sign up for, say, a language selection or for a gender selection, or various aspects whichever the app is trying to engage in. So we have to think upon those lines, make those screens as less as possible and more relevant to the user. So that's the way of like when the user is installing the app and getting to the aha moment. And in terms of D7 and D14, those I wouldn't say those are shorter onboarding cycles. Those could be the activation journeys for the user, where the user has already been onboarded, but now we want to make him adopted on the app, right? Like he starts watching a lot of video, or for say e-commerce, it could be he purchases something or he adds something to the cart, right? So those are the kind of engagement and activation journeys which we can say for D7, D14. But on a D0 to D2 or D3 would be your onboarding journey, where you give the value which the user is expecting from the app.
Great, thanks, Rachit. Makes sense. So let's move on to the next question on the agenda. So the question is, how do the product managers leverage analytics and user behavior to drive users to the product's aha moment? And what are some of the key milestones in this user path that you keep track of? So over to you guys.
So cool. I'll start off with, so we at Swivel, we've looked at it a little different. We've not so obviously booking a trip is an aha moment, but there are like ancillary services that we provide with booking. So it could be like referrals, which are an engagement journey, which is buying a package worth of certain trips is an engagement journey. So we look at all these activities as something that helps us make a user a super user. Let's just say that's the term that you want to use. And we've listed down around 7 to 8, 9 different activities that we'd like a customer, all with different kinds of impact on their long-term engagement and their long-term value with the company. So with the app, so what we try to do is then nudge them. Some customers might not be comfortable with one particular action that they want to do. So beyond the core elements, there's multiple elements that we could sort of push and nudge the customers towards, and that's where we try to go. devise different user flows and help them sort of go through that journey. So if you're able to nudge them towards referring, that sort of improves their engagement on the platform. If you're able to nudge them towards buying a package, or booking their fifth trip, getting another, using a promo code, these are different kinds of experiences that, as more and more customers take those percentage experiences out of the higher the LTV, and we sort of track at every super user, at a user standpoint, we track where their experience metrics are and how much have they engaged with us to be able to do that. We also have cross platforms that we built. So we have a intercity business and intracity business, and being able to push them across businesses and be able to engage with us on more use cases, more travel use cases for themselves. That's something that we try to do on a regular basis. But that's more or less what we try to do, and in the end, keep nudging every customer that comes on. Couple of things from a product standpoint, if you just want to be able to add how to create platforms to be able to do that, or maybe in your booking flow nudge them. So create some cross-sell properties in across the whole booking flow, nudge them in the right places, so that you're able to then bring those things to notice. So discovery of all those experiences can be improved. So that's something that you could look at doing.
Okay, thanks, Chirag. Rajat, would you like to add on to it?
In the same lines, right, in a product like Astral, what we basically do is that we know that our user persona could be a consumer or a creator, right? And then based on the user engagement for the first 2 days, we like kind of identify that this user would create or this user would consume, and based on that, we then have an activation journey for these users. So we have various metrics which, if a user crosses that threshold, we call them activated, right? So for those activation journeys, there would be various engagement which the user has to do on the app, say consuming videos or liking a video or commenting on a video. So we then try to nudge the users to do these particular activities via various coach marks on the app, or through notifications, or through different CRM channels, right? So all these journeys and like are targeted towards activation and getting them to be activated in a particular cohort. And then once they are activated, then we try to get them retained by analyzing the paths of our super users, and then trying to replicate that same journey for the whole set of cohorts which have now been activated. So yeah, that's how we do it.
Great, sounds good. Thanks, Rajat. Cool. So let's go to the third question, which is, what data points do you look at regularly, and what does your dashboard look like? So can you take that as well, Rajat?
Like there are various metrics which you have to look based on various campaigns, right? For say in terms of it's a creation dashboard. So creation dashboard would have all the metrics around the creation flow, creation funnel, then what kind of content is being created, what tags are being used the most. So that would be something on those lines. If I talk about notifications, right? So notifications would have CTRs, would have deliveries, would have the DAO contribution via notifications, and on a say on a brand level, that for various Chinese devices was the CTR, for various the good devices was the CTR, and the deliveries. So that's how the notification one looks. So yeah, for different content or for different campaigns or for different channels, we have different MIS, and in all those MIS, there are different aspects to it, as I mentioned earlier.
Cool, makes sense.
I'll just add what it looks like for us. So what we've been able to do a little bit is structure our way of understanding each flow. So as Rachit mentioned, right, there's 60, like you might have like 10, 12, 15 key flows across your product. And so what we did is we defined promises that we made, like as product managers, as civil, that these are promises that we'd like to make to customers. So just take, for example, the question that asked on the Q&A section is onboarding, right? So if you just say time to sign up, what is our promise? How long will it take how long should it take for a customer? We want to promise, let's say 10 seconds for someone to sign up. So we keep that as a guardrail, and we try to see what percentage of customers are being able to hit that sign up number. So what we do is define promises across each of these funnels, each of these flows. Um, how many people completed signups, having promises on that, saying we're going to have an 85-90% promise, and every time the promise gets breached, we are able to
Mhm.
sort of trigger that alert and say that, hey, this is not something we're okay with, this is not civil standard, and we need to sort of do something right away to go back and fulfill that promise to the customer. So it could be any capability that we build. It could be the booking experience, it could be the the sign up experience, it could be the travel ride experience itself and the ratings that the customer is giving across the board. It could be any of those experiences, but we ensure that we have like at least P0 promises across each of these funnels, which we track on a daily, weekly basis to ensure that we're hitting those promises. And as quarter on quarter we improve, we keep improving, keep taking stretches on our promises also, so that we keep improving our experience for customers. So that's like a structural way of being able to do it. But generally, it is also very funnel dependent on what you're looking at and the experience dependent.
Yeah, absolutely. Chirag, like you mentioned that one of the key metrics for onboarding experience could be sign up and how much time it takes for a user to sign up. Right? Could you share a few more key metrics that you feel are relevant or important for the onboarding flow?
I think one of the things that when we answered the previous question, Rachit mentioned, onboarding would be like the first couple of days, and then the
Mm-hmm.
rest of it would be a different flow. So the first couple of days, the experience is, just after install, how many people are being able to actually come onto board. Like, a lot of people, depending on how good your quality of activation or acquisition is, you're being able to see if they actually install and then open the app and spend more than X amount of time on the app. How long they take to sign up, your OTP, if you're OTP dependent, and
Mm-hmm.
OTP verification becomes a big play. So these are key failure points in your sign up funnel, and then after that it comes down to your core experience and the core product that you're offering. So comes to whether they book or not, whether they search for a ride or not, do they find, say, contextual. It gets to what you're offering from a product standpoint. But given we are offering rides to a customer, um,
Yep.
are we available in the areas that he's looking to travel? Did
Mm-hmm.
he like what we offered him in terms of the available timings, the schedules, and did he come back after that? Did he So how many people end up not booking but coming back the next day looking for something else? So those are certain key things that you track in the first 2 days. You track on the sign up side, and then you track on the search side, which is booking
Correct.
side. And then if now the funnel keeps dropping, but the last set of customers are people who experience a booking in the first 2 days itself and they actually take a ride, then it's essential for you to be able to have a great trip experience. And if you've not been able to give them a trip experience for multiple different operational reasons, it could how do you make up for that experience, right? So that they don't run away from the platform and they stay on the platform. So making up for that experience and also ensuring they get a good first experience is something that we track on a regular basis for me.
Yeah, thanks, Chirag. Quite detailed answer. So I guess Alok, your answer should be question should be answered. And just to rephrase, the key metrics for onboarding stage could could be the first few metrics which are on the login sign up side, and then the other side is on the core capabilities that your product offer, and the first few key important steps that you want your user to take. Like the example that Chirag gave, if a user books a ride or completes a ride, the time taken to book the whole experience, those are a few key metrics that they would track at Civil, and accordingly depends on what your product offers and what could be the key metrics that you want to track accordingly. Yep. So let's move on to the next question, guys, and here it is. So, what trends do you forecast for the product-led growth in 2020, and what will be a key differentiator for your apps or brand success in 2021?
So, Ayas, I would say that
Mm-hmm.
in 2020 or in 2021, right? Um, what I would say is that if we are making a product which aligns to the end user pain, right? That what is the problem that the user is facing, and if we give them a solution with the least friction possible, um, like which is available for everyone. Everyone can use it in an easy fashion or a freemium model or whatever. The easier it is for them to use it and solve the problem, that would like give you a good growth via a product related feature, or through the product itself. So for us, if I tell how we see growth via product is that if we give the right content or the right video to the right user, and if we are making or we are solving some pain for them and making value for them, they would stick to it. They will also promote our app. There would be a good NPS score for it, and that is how we want to evolve in the social business, because the more users who share the videos or content with other people, the more people will start signing up, and that's where the growth loop would start, and we can then reach to high. That's where we are working towards.
Cool. So keep the experience as simple as possible, and that would lead to growth, right? And
Yeah.
Rachit, any differentiator you would want to highlight for your brand success?
So differentiator, I would definitely say is the lifestyle content quality. So if we look at Trill, we have um, so good influencers who are creating much and much meaningful content for the users, and these people are coming onto the platform, learning new things, learning health and fitness, learning new recipes, and new fashion tips, right? And sharing it across as well. So that's where I would say the meaningful content which we are creating is exclusive to us, and that's where the key differentiator.
Great. Thanks, Rachit. Chirag, over to you. Would you
Yeah.
like to take a day?
So just before I get into that, just a little context on the products. Given that Swivel is like an online offline experience, the booking is happens on the app, and then there's a lot of the experience which is across, which is still in the bus with the live experience going from A to B, right? So in that case, the number of use cases we end up solving from a product and how many use cases do you end up solving for, that becomes uh, a way to generate growth. For example, if the same capability that we build should be able to serve someone like Rachit to put on his bike on the app and be able to then maybe take someone to work and carpool, being able to, so creating the ability in a way that you can generate multiple use cases on the app, not only civil operated buses, but opening it up to multiple more people to put their services on, put their carpooling on services, and being able to serve. So like from a ride hailing standpoint, it's an on-demand service, but civil is trying to be more a scheduled service. So being able to book early on, being able to help them book 5 days, plan their whole weekly schedule. If they have a commute service, being able to plan their whole service out very clearly across the board for the whole week, and book that and make it very easy for them, as Arshad said, to be able to book the whole week and book their starting travels every day. That's so it becomes very contextual to the product that we're building. But if you had to abstract very similarly, as Arshad said, finding out those use cases that the customers are looking for, and in the end, what our customers looking for is travel as seamlessly as possible for us, and being able to make that experience and make that planning for the customer as simple, so that and then after that, ensuring that the right experience also, and giving them the ability that if they're having any issues on a non-live ride, giving them that ability to have a clear customer support um, and interactions with support. So we've recently just moved to chat-based services. So that's also something that helps the customer feel very connected to the service, even though we're he's on a bus without any connection to anyone else, only the driver.
Yeah, understood. So, any key differentiator that you would like to highlight for your brand success?
I think the key differentiator would be these multiple use cases. I think one of the reasons why
Okay.
Swivel has still existed in a market with so many ride-hailing companies is the fact that we allow customers to book differently. We allow customers to book. It's not an on-demand service that you have to come daily and book a ride, and doesn't. And because of this, we are able to sort of bring down the cost. So for us, that's enabling these use cases and getting ourselves to as close as mass transit price differentiator is what will help us compete in the mobility space.
Got it. Got it. Okay, so let's move on to the next question, and here is it. Can you share an instance of how your product team contributed to your brand's growth, and how did you identify the gap, and what steps did you take to fill in? Chirag?
Sure. So I can think of one example. So similar to us in our booking experience, what we are looking to do is it's a commute service, so you'd want to be able to enter your locations, as I said earlier, as easy as possible. Pick up location, drop off location. There most likely 4 to 5 locations that cover most of your travel up as easy as in any city, right? So it'll cover 80-90% of your use cases. So being able to automatically pop these 4-5 locations up as you travel with us, and make them available to you on the homepage, so that you don't have to spend a lot of time looking for them, putting the pin location, putting the drop, automatically knowing from your previous interactions, which could be searches or bookings with us, being able to pop them up. And then, so though the algorithm in the back end, the way we try to bring it up might be complicated, also then focusing on strong UX, the ability to be able to provide them in an easy manner, easy clickable manner, so that a customer can just click on it and move on. That significantly gave us a big impact. It also sort of the product, that sort of algorithm based product, is something which you've built it, developed it, released it, and it's been 2 months since you've developed it, but that it's a learning product, so it keeps improving itself, and you will still get value from something like that 4 months down the line, 5 months down the line. So every new customer, it sort of helps them on the journey. So building products like this has helped us sort of really drive growth, drive retention on the system. How we identified it, was this: the time that they were taking to search was quite a bit. How long do they take to input the pickup and drop off? And then we broke it down into a couple of milestones, and we delivered a couple of different milestones, and we iterated on the UX. Took us a month and a half to get it out across those milestones, but generally identification of that problem at the time level, and then using that to be able to come up with a simple UX and make it easy for customers. That's what we did here.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. Jachit, would you like to give it a try?
So very similar to what Chirag said, right? Based on user interaction, if we are able to augment the experience which they would be getting on their next app opens, and make it easy for them and make it valuable for them, that definitely helps us in growing the retention aspect of things. And for that as well, for Trails, since content discovery or the right content for the right user is a very important problem statement, and we are continuously trying to solve it. Again, there is a system which we have created in the backend, which gives the right user the right content based on the engagement on the app. But again, as I mentioned, it takes a longer period of time to kind of learn to all the engagement activities and then derive the growth aspects. So yeah, that's where we are also heading. And in terms of identifying what are the kind of content pieces or what are the kind of engagement we want to drive and how do we drive it, we kind of looked at the watch percentages and the watch time of the user on the platform. Based on that, we saw that if we make it a little better, and based on various engagement activities, we did a manual testing and then kind of started with the back-end automation process, because we saw that by doing manually, we saw there were few improvements in the test set. So yeah, that's how we identified and then moved ahead with the scale up.
So the gap was the time it took to find the right content for a user.
Yeah, the time it took to find the right content, as the same time, if we are giving the right content, how longer the session becomes, the watch time of the user increases.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. So my next question is, what are the biggest challenges faced by your product team when driving growth? How did you overcome it, and what steps have you taken to ensure this does not repeat? So, Rachit, would you like to continue this?
Challenges definitely come in terms of data and like whenever there are experiments, right? And there are so many experiments going out in the company on the same app, on the same particular user. Now identifying which particular experiment attributed to what kind of the growth which you have seen in various metrics, right? So that attribution definitely poses a challenge in terms of how what is working and by what particular experiment this particular matrix got moved up or moved down. For that, we kind of created a whole system of A/B testing where different users, like different user groups, would be created based on their engagement matrix in terms of how longer they have been on the platform. Then, based on that, um, what were the kind of activities they have done, their watch time, their engagement in terms of likes, comments, and based on that, we create various groups which are not biased in nature so that whatever experiments we do on that particular group would give the right results and help us understand the right matrix which are moving. Um, so that whole AB system framework where we are kind of understanding the users based on their lifetime and based on their engagement activities and creating that control group and a test group in the right particular fashion helped us in getting the right results altogether and scaling up the right project. So yeah, having that proper A/B framework based on the user engagement as well as user um, say the user time on in the platform would give like gives the right result. So that's what we try to build and help us in scaling various projects.
Yeah, understand. Yeah, the A/B testing is looks like a good way to go about it. So I guess your problem was attributing which metric is contributing to what uh,
Which
factor or
experiment?
what. Yeah,
Yeah.
make understand. Chirag?
So I think slightly contextual problem to Civil maybe, but I think a lot of times you build products and identifying you build products all the way to 100% and you don't release early. So what it's led sometimes it leads to you learning later. So we've seen a couple of times when we waited too long to release something out, and then we've lost a lot of time in terms of the ability to be able to learn from customer feedback, because data, qualitative and quantitative data can only give you directions and hypotheses and validate 80-90% success, but there's still a 10% ambiguity on whether you will actually get what you're thinking, or maybe you forgot a different part of the system that your product is going to impact, and another KPI might go down, right? So the trade-offs might not always be identified. So in our case, what we did, a couple of projects that sort of products that got built, and they had certain issues which we found out very late, which we could have easily done if we had broken it down, released, and built something out and then iterated later. So what we started doing now a lot more is breaking it down into clear milestones, clear pivot checkpoints. So if you had a big product that you're building and which had 5 different sort of hypotheses that you're going after, you sort of lay it down, go after one, test the most risk case assumption first, then move on to the next, and then keep learning and then keep evolving your product based on that. So I think that's helped us a lot in terms of going to market and learning from our customers quickly. And that, I think that in any, it could be most of the initiatives are in the end towards increasing revenue and growth. So any product feature that you'd want to develop for that, this helps a lot. So basically, if I have to summarize, it's releasing as early as possible with what you have in a form that is consumable by customers, and then iterating and experimenting and making it better.
Yep, makes sense. I think that's a challenge we also face at times at MoEngage, and it's all about the right balance between speed and perfection.
Correct.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so last question for you guys. So here we go. How often do multiple functions work together at your respective organizations to achieve a common goal? And what functions end up working with each other the most, or what processes do you follow to set up expectations and timelines for the cross-working teams toward the same goal, and how is ownership being divided? So bit of a logistical thing, but I guess it would help our audience to understand all the things at play here. Right. So do you want me to repeat the question? Okay. So
Rajat, you
okay.
want
So
to go
Hello.
yeah, Rachel, we can hear
Yeah.
you.
What I would say is that like when you are working as a product manager for growth, there are various like for all your projects there are different teams which would be working with you, and like in 12 the kind of teams which I work with on a daily level or on any project, right? There would be a content operations team, there would be a notifications team, there would be a um, uh, executive team for creating the CRM execs, and then there would be data science because they would be the people who would be sitting in the middle of matrix which would get impacted.
Rachel, we
For
lost
any
you
particular
for last
project,
10
there would
seconds.
be always multiple folks which would be working on it based on the type of the project. Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Rachel. That's okay. Yeah, Rachel,
Sure.
your
Am I
video,
audible,
you
right?
froze for, yeah, you froze for a couple of seconds, but that's okay. Please continue.
So okay, I can take the question till he comes back.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chirag.
So I think we've evolved our processes quite a bit in Civil over the last 6 months, 9 months on how functions work together. I think in different journeys, different domains. So we've almost restructured the way the company works to ensure that we become more product tech led, and that means that being able to sort of build cross functional teams that are solving on the same KPI, because KPIs are owned across functions. So you have a functional organization, but you still have cross functional teams that need to work together.
Yep.
We've been able to do some of that restructuring, and then focused on certain OKRs that the whole team will own. It could be a combination of functions, so on and so forth. And with functional leadership, what now having a strong functional leadership which is very cooperative and very collaborative with each other would really help us across the board to become more collaborative across each teams. That's one important call out. And second, but once you get there, then forgetting your functional sort of boundaries and then working really cross functionally, um, which means taking targets also cross functionally. So if you're planning for, let's say, sign up, and there are a couple of people who are responsible for targeting people who didn't sign up, so on and so forth, you work with them in a small group. You come up with you work with marketing guys, you work with the notifications guys, you work with the promo guys. You all in one team, and you set out a 2-3 month journey to say that by the end of this journey, I would want our XYZ matrix to be at 80%, 90%, and taking these targets cross-functionally together and saying, Chirag and his will do these kind of products, we'll do these notifications, and all of that together will get us to 80-90% is what really helped us. It's a very difficult organization like structure to sort of be able to execute, but the more we've been at it, the better it gets, and every quarter we sort of get into a way where it gets to the ideal state.